Welcome. Today we're going to be talking to Dr. Christine Bowen. We're going to ask the question, can autoimmune disease be cured? Welcome back. So, Dr. Christine Bowen, what about this question? Can autoimmune disease be cured?
That is a great question. And I feel like we all would hope that it is absolutely true that autoimmune disease can be cured. But my answer instead is the very annoying maybe. And when I say maybe, it's because there hasn't been, good research or, really solid evidence that autoimmune diseases can be cured. Although from clinical practice, I can tell you that it does seem like people can get solidly into disease remission. And so that clinical remission sometimes can even look like true cure, but it may just be deep clinical remission.
Okay, so I'm hearing like not a forever cure, but I could be symptom free as a person with autoimmune disease.
Yes, you could have low inflammation, low symptoms, low disease markers in your blood, or even absent. Like in the case of me with Hashimoto's, I don't have Hashimoto's antibodies anymore. It's been about 5 years that they've been absent, but I still consider myself having Hashimoto's because if I were to start eating gluten again, I'm sure I could bring those antibodies back, right? So I was wondering, that's a little bit about my condition, or one of my autoimmune conditions, and how it's in a remission sort of state. And what has your experience been like with, symptom reduction, kind of learning your triggers, or, even experiencing something kind of close to cure? Some might say you're cured, but you might say deep remission.
Right. Yes. I mean, I've had kind of, as I've shared in some of these other videos, like I really kind of crafted this journey, put myself on it, had the belief that there were going to be ways that I could address my health so that I could do symptom reduction. And I think that the biggest challenges for me initially were around commitment, because I wanted all of the results with none of the investment. I wanted to be symptom free, and I wanted to do the minimum to do it. And then I got to a point where I was implementing most of my strategies, and I would have said that I was like 95% compliant. I don't love the word compliant. Find your word that says like you've got that commitment, you're showing up with accountability to it, that doesn't.
You're on the track that you wanted to be on. You're on the path that you wanted to be
trending in the right direction.
Yes.
So, and that was for social reasons. That was because I still wanted to go out and eat and have drinks with friends. And I hadn't figured out how to substitute those things yet. But I got a lot of relief. I've talked also in some of these about, I did a lot of sunbathing, short stints, but with different parts of my body. I had psoriasis on my face. So going out in the morning for 10 minutes, sitting in some not really intense sun, but with sun on my face, that helped a lot of the lesions. Those haven't returned. I would say, as far as the amount of psoriasis I had on my body, to the amount that I have now, about 97% cleared up. I still have some, just kind of, what's the word I want? Tenacious, challenging spots.
Leftover. It's
Leftover,
an
right,
echo of what was previously there.
Right. Yeah. Not nearly as severe, not nearly as uncomfortable. And I do informed harm. I don't know how else to describe that.
informed bad decisions is what I call it. And, it has the acronym IBD. It's not inflammatory bowel disease, but basically sometimes we can know what our triggers are and we still can choose them. I mean, we
Yeah.
still might choose them. And it's because we're tremendously human, right?
Right.
So human, but also being able to say, I'm making this decision in this moment, but it's not like you're like, whoa, why did I get a flare after I made this decision? It's like, I am informed about the harm that it will cause or the symptoms
Right.
that I may experience, but I'm still going to choose it.
Right. Exactly. So knowing what the consequences were likely to be, I introduced foods back, sometimes too soon, sometimes just things that my body really doesn't like me to eat. And so that's about like personal strategy, kind of developing the recipe for how do I best take care of things. We ran our 91-day program last year with a cohort, and because I was doing this work in community, I was much more committed. We had the pandemic kept us home, so cooking at home became easier, and so I think that I got a lot of impact from my first 3 years of just piecemeal, try to get it together. But last year, being in it with community, feeling supported, feeling
That's
there was a
great.
sense of humor, there was shared strategies. I think I got to myself to
Accountability, not just to ourselves, but you felt like I'm here for other people too. I want to have this full experience. Sometimes when
yeah,
people are investing money or time or both, that there is also this accountability. I want to get the most out of this experience. Right?
absolutely. I wanted to be walking the talk. I wanted to be along with people on how difficult some of it is, because we don't say that this is easy. We just say that we're cheerleading you, take the next right step for you. But I did notice that I'm able to eat more things without getting flares than I used to, and
Like your
and
body's more resilient.
right, because the focus of our plan is to help people get in remission, and that was my experience. Was um I got enough healing, I got my body out of inflammation enough that it stopped being so reactive. There was a little more grace in my body, whereas before it was like I'm angry, I'm hurting. Anything that you add in as an irritant creates this like volcanic eruption.
It's
But
already
now
like
it's
right up
like,
at the
well,
edge.
that's not ideal, but it's not terrible. It still has nutrients that my body likes. So I find that it's much easier to balance, and I always have these core things to come back to. So one of the triggers for myself and a lot of us is stress. So even if I'm not consuming a lot of things that are triggering for me, if my stress starts creating flares or pulls me out of remission, then I can um, make sure I'm eating a more nutrient dense diet to support myself from that side.
Like if it's unavoidable stress, then you might double down on something, a different area
Yes, I might
that
be like, okay,
helps.
I want to be eating like tons of different vegetables in my week, because I know that there's such great nutrients in each one, and that will leave me more resourced, right?
Mhm.
To be
So
more
it's,
resourced for health, more resourced for energy, more resourced to make more good choices.
yeah, as you're feeling better, then you have more capacity to be able to take on other things. It's like there are steps to this process, almost like symptom changes or symptom reduction is in the beginning. We would hope that people would feel
Yeah.
relief, some relief from
Right,
taking on a
right.
program like
Less
this.
joint pain, less
Brain
headaches,
fog,
easier to
fatigue.
sleep. Those are things that we heard from all the folks that have been on the program with us so far,
Yeah.
right?
So it's like symptom reduction, a reduction in inflammation, and then as you persist or you figure out what your triggers are, the longer you stay without those sort of things, or you do things like deep gut healing, or you're working on other aspects like stress and sleep, then
Right.
you can get closer to
Mindfulness.
deep remission, right?
Yeah.
Versus something like true cure of a condition, like they'll even say spontaneous cure of certain conditions. Sometimes conditions will just magically go away, and there isn't a good scientific, reason why they magically went away. With true cure, we would expect that then you wouldn't have to, pay attention to your triggers or
Right.
know how something influences. You just go back to doing whatever the heck you want and you would be fine. And so that's why we like terms like remission or deep remission or symptom reduction, because then it's a little bit more realistic about the expectations that there
Yeah.
may still be modifications that your autoimmune disease or your body demands of you going
Mhm.
forward. And then it's just good to know, oh, that's part of my toolbox for how I manage this condition. So how do you manage it, and how do you get into more deep remission or remission without expecting that there's going to be a spontaneous cure? It could happen. Things can spontaneously remit, but it's not
Absolutely.
the standard. The standard would be, let's be realistic about the work that we're going to have to keep on doing. So it's like somebody who's diabetic, just because their blood sugar is controlled, when they do certain things to control their blood sugar, doesn't mean that they can do whatever the heck they want and that they won't still have diabetes, right? So
Right.
it's like, is it
Right.
very well managed versus not well managed? And so I think that that's what our goals are for you with something like immune recovery, would be to get the tools to understand what your triggers are, be able to experience some significant symptom reduction, get some tips and tools to be able to put your recipe together to figure out what is right for you to be able to maintain healing. So yeah, that's my answer. Maybe about cure, but
Right.
more likely things like remission are very possible.
Which is so important. We want people to have hope. And we also want people to know, I want you to know that while long-term management might sound daunting, the the benefit that I reap is I feel good. I wake up feeling good. I feel healthy. I feel vibrant. Not
Side
all day, every
benefits.
day, but yeah, these side benefits of living this way um, have outweighed the amount of effort it's taken to change my habits and do things differently. Because um, when I looked at making major changes to my life in the past, it was from a depleted, not well space, and
No energy.
I didn't have the energy to implement totally different things or do a lot of food prep or things like that. But when we hear from people that, within a month or two of being on our program, they're experiencing pain-free days for the first time in 20 years,
That's so
like things
powerful.
become easier to stick to when you're not in chronic pain. And so, yes, I love that you kind of focus on that symptom reduction, remission, deep remission, maintenance, because that is really realistic. And we want people to know that it's not just a sentence of you have this diagnosis, your body will just degrade and fall apart. It doesn't have to
I
be.
don't like that at all. And it seems like that's the messaging that everybody gets, is that you have this
They don't
chronic
want to give
condition.
people false hope, so they
It's
don't
going to
give
get
them
worse. No hope. Yeah, it's going to get worse and
right.
worse until you become permanently disabled. The end. That is absolutely the expectation that most people who have been handed a diagnosis of autoimmune disease believe.
Yeah.
And we want you to know that there is hope. There, you can have symptom change. You can have really huge symptom change. Of course, it's going to take some work. It's going to take figuring out what's right for you. But please know that just because you have an autoimmune disease doesn't mean that this is just a downward spiral and you're just going
Right.
to end up
And the pain will
in
just
disability.
amplify.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it doesn't have to suck.
It doesn't have, having autoimmune disease does not have to suck. You heard it here. Exactly.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bowen. I'm so glad that you gave us time to really dig into this, because I know it was a concern when I was first diagnosed. I imagine it was a concern when you were first diagnosed. And we assume that it's something that the rest of you are holding curiosity about. So I'm just really grateful for your time and your thinking around this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when we post new content.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook and other social media.